Welcome back to our minute-to-minute analysis of Matrix Revolutions. Last time, Neo reached a truce with the machines, defeating Smith in exchange for Zion's survival. Now, Neo will have to face his nemesis. The fight for the future of humanity and machines hangs in the balance. Welcome to Matrix Explained.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
This scene was done almost entirely with practical effects. CGI was barely used. Dozens of mannequin dolls were used. All of them had on masks molded after Hugo Weaving's head.
So I said one day, well, why don't we make a whole of, rubber Smiths up?
We went through a variety of ideas and eventually arrived at some pretty photorealistic dummies. They were pretty successful and turned out so much better than it seemed like we were going to be able to do at the beginning.
This was one of the most difficult scenes to shoot because the actors had to fight and talk under heavy falling water. At the time, the fight between Smith and Neo in the air was criticized. Some people considered it a bit cartoonish, but in retrospect, Matrix 3 was a pioneer in the style of movie fighting. Today, it is common to see flying character fight scenes in superhero or sci-fi action movies. Neo is a type of superhero, and now it is normal to see characters flying and fighting like Superman. Back to the story, the clash of the Titans begins. Smith is now more powerful than before. He is much faster and can also fly. Smith has mastered the abilities of the integral anomaly. On several occasions, they hit each other and fly off in opposite directions. This was the Wachowskis' way of showing us that both Neo and Smith are at the same level but on opposite ends. It is also a reference to what the Oracle said, that Smith was Neo's opposite.
What is he?
He is you. Your opposite, your negative. The result of the equation trying to balance itself out.
We then come to the beginning of Smith's philosophical monologue. He begins by talking about how he can feel the end and how Neo taught him purpose.
Can you feel it, Mr. Anderson? Closing in on you.
I really should thank you for it. After all, it was your life that taught me the purpose of all life. The purpose of life is to end.
When we met Smith, he had a misanthropic philosophy. He hated humanity. He also had a vision that machines were superior to humans. He saw himself as part of that superior race.
Because as soon as we started thinking for you, it really became our civilization, which is, of course, what this is all about. Evolution, Morpheus. Evolution. Like the dinosaur. Look out that window. You had your time. The future is our world, Morpheus. The future is our time. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague, and we are the cure.
But something happened after he was destroyed by Neo in the first movie. Neo created the negative part of himself. Everything wrong with humanity is reflected in Smith. Thus, he goes from being a misanthrope to a dangerous nihilistic force that sees no purpose in existence. He doesn't see his superiority over the machines. He went from hating humans to hating all of existence because he sees it as absurd. This destructive absurdism and nihilism made Smith one of the most dangerous villains in cinema because Smith is absolute evil. He is Neo's opposite. Neo is not fighting to secure the future for himself or the humans. He is fighting for everyone, including the machines. Smith's psychopathic state could have arisen by being infected with the anomaly's code, and maybe Neo's humanity. After Smith and Neo are fighting in the sky, Smith hits him hard and Neo falls to the ground and makes a crater. Smith continues with his monologue. In this exchange, Smith questions the why. We have already explained this in a previous video. The answer as to why Smith was afraid of Neo stems from the Merovingian and the Oracle, Smith had become incredibly powerful after assimilating the Oracle. But Neo was still more powerful because he finally understood that the end of the cycle had come. To understand this, we must go back to the moment when Neo met the Merovingian. The Frenchman believes that power is knowing everything. For him, Neo was someone without power because he did not know the why.
Our only hope, our only peace is to understand it, to understand the why. Why is what separates us from them, you from me. Why is the only real source of power. Without it, you are powerless. And this is how you come to me, without why, without power.
The Merovingian knows that the Oracle hides information to maintain power. However, Neo eventually questions the Oracle why.
Then why didn't you tell me about the architect? Why didn't you tell me about Zion and the ones before me? Why didn't you tell me the truth?
The eyes of the Oracle is the most powerful weapon in the Matrix. With them, one can predict future events to a certain extent. But even this powerful weapon has its drawbacks. One cannot see beyond the choices they do not understand. Neo had developed the same power as the Oracle, but could not see past Trinity's death because he did not understand at the time why he should choose between saving her or humanity. This weakness of the eyes of the Oracle is what she used to defeat Smith.
I told you before, no one can see beyond a choice they don't understand. And I mean no one.
What choice?
It doesn't matter. It's my choice. I have mine to make, same as you have yours.
The Oracle was talking about how she decided to allow herself to be assimilated by Smith, but even she cannot see past her decision. This is why Smith was afraid. Smith assimilated the Oracle. He saw Neo on the ground, defeated. He saw the end.
I know it does. I've seen it. That's why the rest of me is just going to enjoy the show. Because we already know that I'm the one that beats you.
Smith foresaw that he beat Neo, but didn't see what would happen next because he couldn't understand Neo's choice to continue fighting, much less why Neo would allow himself to be assimilated. Smith can't see past Neo's choices because he doesn't understand the why, just like the Merovingian said. And so Smith asks Neo why.
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why? Why do you do it? Why? Why get up? Why keep fighting?
Smith asks why at least 6 times. Neo doesn't give him a logical answer.
Because I choose to.
Let's stop for a second and analyze what Neo just said. Smith is asking him why because he cannot comprehend Neo's illogical decision. That he fights because he chooses to. The Merovingian helps to make sense of this situation. Although Smith had all the power in the world, he had no power against Neo, as Smith had reached that point without ever asking why. Neo knows why he fights when he realizes that the Oracle had everything planned. While Neo was on the ground, Smith said a few words that sounded familiar to him.
Everything that has a beginning has an end, Neo.
Everything that has a beginning has an end.
Neo realized that everything was happening according to what the Oracle had said, and like the fortune teller, he must also sacrifice himself. Neo knew that it was the only way to stop Smith, using the former agent's ignorance against him, and that scared Smith.
What are you afraid of?
Smith suspected that it was a trap, but he ignored his instincts. Pretty sure he didn't know what a gut feeling was, and so he assimilated Neo without hesitation, just like he did with the Oracle. He made the same mistake twice. The eyes of the Oracle worked against him. The Oracle gave Smith his one weakness, and Neo exploited it and destroyed the virus.
No, it's not fair.
Interesting how Smith's last words are him being in denial. Something that the architect mentioned was humanity's most predictable emotion.
Denial is the most predictable of all human responses.
In the end, Smith became what he hated the most, a human being driven by emotions of hatred, selfishness, and denial. The Oracle effectively used her weakness to stop Smith. Her strategy worked, but it was a very risky play since she couldn't see what the outcome could have been.
You played a very dangerous game.
Change always is.
The Merovingian was always right. If we do not understand the why of things, we are powerless. Next time, it all ends. Or does it? For Matrix Explained, please leave a like and subscribe. And thank you for visiting the Desert of the Real.